Hey guys, it's Ginny Silver. We are doing a live California business Q&A tonight. First, I want to talk once again about this incredibly annoying BOI report, Beneficial Ownership Information Report, that we have all got sick and tired of hearing about by now, but I'm going to tell you the most recent update and clarify something from my last video that I want to make sure you understand. The BOI report is for corporations and then those of you that have an LLC, including single member LLCs, limited liability companies, not sole proprietorships. If you have been following this information, most likely you got frustrated at first when you heard about this report, not from FinCEN, not from the Treasury, not from the Secretary of State, but probably from me or from someone else on the internet sharing this information. This report was required to be filed by LLCs and corporations to provide information about their owners, those who are benefiting from the company as an active owner. They have gone back and forth on the regulations, on the dates, and there was a preliminary injunction on this, which paused it temporarily. Now, there are two updates that came out rather recently that I want to make sure that you understand. Number one is that the preliminary injunction that paused this was lifted, and a new deadline, let me share my screen, of March. I can share my screen quickly. There it goes. There it is. A new deadline of March 21st, 2025 was reported for the BOI to be filed. Otherwise, you face those hefty penalties and fines, which are over $500 per day and an additional criminal penalty if you don't file it. So this is the new filing date. You can see it right here on the BOI, FinCEN's website for filing the BOI here. Now, the thing that is an additional update is that the Treasury, which Treasury controls FinCEN, stated in a press release on March 2nd that they would not be issuing, that they would not be issuing any penalties or fines against U.S. citizens or domestic reporting companies on their beneficial owners after the rule changes. Okay, so I'm not reading very well today, you guys. Basically, what the Treasury stated was that if you don't file this report, they would not be enforcing penalties and fines because they want to further refine the regulation here that requires you to file it. So the confusion here is that we have the law that was enacted by Congress, the Corporate Transparency Act. We have the court cases going under judicial review, reviewing the constitutionality of the law itself. And then we have the Treasury coming in. So the courts ruled that this would be back in place and that it would be due by March 21st, 2025. However, the Treasury came in and made their statement. The Treasury will not be enforcing penalties and fines, but I do want you to keep in mind that you can either choose not to file it, knowing that the Treasury has stated that they're not going to enforce penalties and fines. They plan on narrowing the scope of this, and it most likely won't affect you. But you also can choose to file it if you just want to be over and done with the BOI fiasco, because while the Treasury did state that they are not going to issue penalties and fines, I want you guys to keep in mind that this is still an active law. The Corporate Transparency Act, which went through Congress, which is a law, has to have new legislation proposed, passed, and signed into law before the BOI is officially dead. So what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of news reporting going on saying that the BOI is dead. So I just want you to understand that it's not quite dead. Unfortunately, you have to still kind of check back if you choose not to file it and see exactly what's going to be redefined there. This is the first time that I've had no one, well, now there's a comment, no one asked any questions in the chat yet up until now. So I'm going to go ahead and show this before I move I love podcasts. Hello. I was able to create my LLC last month. When do I have to pay the $800 fee? Is it next year? So the $800 annual LLC tax is due basically in advance for the upcoming year. So you will need to pay that this April. Previously, that first year was waived. And so in prior videos that you see of mine prior to, I think, 2023, you will see me reference a piece of legislation that says you don't have to pay that your first year, but that has ended and you now have to continue to pay this starting with your very first year. So you're going to be paying that $800 LLC fee this April 15th or sooner. So make sure that you send that off in addition to your regular tax balance, because that $800 fee is going to be payable to the California Franchise Tax Board. It's a separate payment from paying your federal and your state income taxes, and it's going to be filed with Form 568. So you want to make sure, just because this is your first time since you just created your LLC, I want to make sure you understand. You're going to be filing your income taxes. You are going to file your Form 568 with the California Secretary of State. You have to print out that extra form and mail it in if your tax preparer doesn't do it for you. Additionally, you have to send that payment in to the California Franchise Tax Board and make sure that your Secretary of State entity number is really clearly written on that check. I have personally made a mistake with this. It was years ago when I was a new LLC, but my payment and my tax return didn't connect and we're kind of floating around there, and it accrued penalties and fees. So you want to make sure that you actually mail it in, send it in, and make sure that you have done both of those pieces of the puzzle. I need water for my loud water bottle. Okay, I love podcasts. Do you have a recent video series on what I need to do now that I'm an LLC? I have a lot of LLC content, and there is one video that I compiled kind of recently where I took all the LLC videos and I smashed them into one Frankenstein together video. It's like a 2-hour long video. So if you go to my channel homepage, look for LLC. It's called the LLC Starter Kit, and it's just a bunch of different videos over time all put together. Some of the information is older. However, the only information that really would have changed since I created that video would be the first year of $800 tax being waived. However, in all those videos, I did clearly give dates that those were going to end. So all that information should still be current. There's lots of information in that video, including how to keep it active, what you need to do in terms of record keeping, what additional steps you need to take once you form your LLC, because once you form it, there's still additional steps you have to take to have it be current and active. And then it goes through taxes and costs and different things like that. So if you formed your LLC, you want to make sure that you have a registered agent on file, which should have been included in your articles of organization. And then you want to make sure that you keep that active. So if you hired out a service for that, you want to make sure that you keep that service going. If it's you and you're on public record as your own registered agent, you want to make sure that you have the correct address that you want listed there and things like that. You're going to want to take into consideration if you want to have all of your personal, well, you already formed your LLC, so hopefully you did this beforehand. You need to take into consideration if you want all of your personal information listed there, or if you're going to do something such as a home remote office, virtual office, instead of listing your home address, things like that. So that, LLC Starter Kit video has all of that information there, including personal safety, how to register your business and still keep your personal info hidden and things like that. But you already registered your LLC. So whatever you filled out is already on public record. Can't take it down now. Okay, I am going to wait for more questions to come in. And while I do that, I am going to give you a brief rundown of 1099s because you're going to be receiving them in the mail right about now. Many of you may have done independent contractor, gig work. You may have worked and provided services or labor, and you may now be receiving 1099 NECs and 1099 miscellaneous. The due date for sending those out has already passed. The due date for a business to send that to you and to the IRS was January 31st. So if you know that you did $600 or more in contract work for another business and you are waiting a 1099, it is past the due date. They need to have already sent that to you. So if you are still receiving these in the mail, or if you already received one and you're not sure what to do with it, you're going to be receiving either in most cases, a 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation. When you receive this, you need to understand that you are going to have to include it with your income tax filing. This is going to be for self-employed income, so it is going to go on a Schedule C with your tax return. All of that income is self-employed income, therefore it is not subject to payroll taxes. Because you are paid as an independent contractor, you're going to be responsible for paying those taxes yourself through self-employment tax. So when you file your taxes, which is coming up anytime now, you're going to be paying state income taxes, federal income taxes, as well as self-employment tax. The important thing to understand when you're an independent contractor is that self-employment tax is going to be an additional 15.3% of your net earnings. So make sure that you have budgeted that out and that you are prepared for that to be paid come tax day. That 15.3% goes to Social Security and Medicare. Self-employment tax is tax deductible, so you'll be able to deduct it as an expense in the amount of half of what you pay of self-employment tax. I wish it was the whole amount, but unfortunately it is not. Okay, I have the least amount of questions that I have ever had on a live stream. Why? Because I gave the world's shortest notice that I was going live today. Okay, so for those of you that are doing self-employment income tax, I'm going to give a couple additional pointers that I want you to know about during this tax season. Number one, those 1099s need to be logged into your taxes. They're going to go on that Schedule C. Number two, you're going to be subject to that self-employed income tax, 15.3%. But there is going to be another tax that you have to pay that you may not be anticipating, which is estimated quarterly income tax. If you pay your self-employed income taxes and you expect that next year you're going to owe $1,000 or more in income tax, then you are going to have to pay estimated quarterly taxes going forward. Many people who are starting self-employment for their first time do not realize that this additional payment is going to be due. And not only is it due, but it's due on tax day on April 15th. So it can be really easy to get hit really hard on tax day when you finish your taxes and all of a sudden after you pay them and you think you're done, you realize that you have another voucher that you have to pay. Estimated quarterly income taxes are basically what you anticipate what you will owe next year, broken down into 4 equal payments. And so you're going to pay these quarterly using Form 1040ES. Estimated. So this is the payment that you're going to make that's going to hopefully next year bring your balance to 0. So that when you pay your taxes next year, hopefully that balance is as close to your estimated taxes as possible. Okay, let me check here real quick. 1 second. Okay. Is it true that in California, the deadline to file taxes this year is October 15th because of the wildfires? Okay, so if you are in, I'll pull up the page in a sec. If you're in a wildfire affected zone, not just you live in California, but you live in Los Angeles County, you live where there was a natural disaster declared, cannot speak today, then yes, that is delayed. But if you do not live there, then it is not delayed. You can apply for an extension, and that will be your extension date if your extension is granted, though. So California, both for your LLC taxes as well as your personal income taxes. Let me pull that up because I know the page. Okay. There it is. Okay. But I need to share my screen with you. It's coming. Okay. So yeah, there it is. California wildfire victims qualify for tax relief. Various deadlines posted to October 15th. This also applies if you pay sales tax to the CDTFA. That deadline has passed January, February, March. So at the end of March, due April 1st, is going to be first quarter sales taxes as well. So if you are in one of these areas affected by wildfire, the CDTFA also will delay your filing. But this is only for those who live in that specific area. Now, you can apply for a tax extension as well if you're not in that area and you need more time. However, the tax extension oftentimes only applies to the taxes that you are filing, your return, and not to the payments. So with the disaster relief, it applies to everything. But if you're applying for an extension, just a generalized extension, then your payment is still due, but the paperwork is not. It's very odd. Okay, let me remove this. Okay, can you explain 1099B filings? 1099B is not self-employment. 1099B is, I think, dividends and investment. Proceeds from broker and board. Yeah, this is not my area of expertise, unfortunately. So I cannot comment on that. I'm sorry. Only in LA, pretty much, yes. Yeah, let me go back to that publication and see the specific areas. There were disasters earlier in the year that affected other parts of California, specifically in Northern California. So some of those counties are on the list as well. But yes, them currently. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off. Okay, let me check this next one while I drink some water. We always suggest to make an estimate based on last year in case you owe to avoid those penalties and interest. RMDE 5, I'm assuming you are a tax professional or a CPA, is that correct? Yeah, so it gets tricky when you're self-employed because, take me for example, my self-employed income goes absolutely all over the place. I have years where I make multiple six figures, and I have years where I'm really low because I kind of ebb and flow with the needs of my family, the demand for things, mental health, things like that, like really cause my business to go up and down. So if you are someone in self-employment and you're trying to figure out what to pay for estimated quarterly taxes, you want to overestimate it, because you will be charged penalties and interest if you underestimate it. You need to make sure that you are doing the best you can to kind of gauge it accurately, but don't underestimate it. Anything that you overpay, you'll receive back in terms of a refund. The only way to get a real refund when you're self-employed. I work for a firm. I'm a payroll manager and do entity filings. Okay, thank you for sharing. You probably just finished up lots of your busy time preparing everyone's forms for taxes. Okay, I am seeing no other questions at this time. So if you are lurking in this chat, you have a question. There are no dumb questions. I do not mind answering the simplest of business questions. All right, there's one other thing I'm going to cover for 1099s. I just put a video about this out today. And now I know that I have someone that knows taxes here. Maybe they'll chime in. I just put a video out today. I received a really good question on one of my videos. And like, I get excited when there's a question that I've never covered before, that I haven't created before. So I made a video on this. I don't remember who asked the question. I didn't recognize their name, so I don't know if it's someone that tunes in regularly. But they received a 1099 miscellaneous and it had royalties on it. They're a content creator. I think it was TikTok, and they received royalties. They took their 1099 to their tax professional. The tax pro said, this is going to go on a Schedule E. Schedule E is different from Schedule C. Schedule E is like additional income. Oftentimes like rental properties will go on there. Other royalties will go on there. But basically a Schedule E is going to be for income that you're receiving that is royalties that is not due to an active business or trade, that you're not actively working in and creating business in. The IRS states really clearly that when you have royalties on a 1099 miscellaneous, you've received royalties, if you have a business that is actively engaged in business, still creating that content, still working in that trade, that you are not supposed to use a Schedule E. You're supposed to file it on a Schedule C instead. Now, this makes a big difference because making this mistake can mean that you can owe penalties and fees, I keep saying it, on this misclassified income later down the line. And of course, the IRS takes years before they realize these mistakes, and you just happen to accrue all of this interest over time. Now, this person took their royalties to their tax professional. The tax professional put it on a Schedule E instead of a Schedule C. Problem here is that a Schedule C is self-employment income and it applies self-employment tax, 15.3%. Also, your deductions you can take are different over there. Because they filed it on a Schedule E, this person was nervous that it wasn't done correctly and that they might have to come back around and pay those taxes later on. They asked me, and I double checked, and I recently researched this to make sure, because I'm not a tax pro. And they did it wrong. They filed it in the wrong place. So if you are someone that receives royalties, if you're a content creator, this is big for this niche. If you're an author creating books, etc., if you're actively engaged in that business, if you're still creating content, it isn't like one single piece of content that's old, that's still generating income, even though you're not actively trying to have a business in that area, then it is self-employed income and it's going to go on a Schedule C. The IRS states this really clearly in publication 17. Yeah, so hopefully that person sees my video. Okay, let me see what's going on in the chat. Are there any penalties or fees I should be aware of? For what? There's a lot of them. For an LLC, you can be fined if you don't pay your LLC fee, that annual $800. If you earn over $250,000 in a year as an LLC, there's an additional LLC fee that is tacked onto there, and it's based according to how much you earn. So you need to make sure that both of those are covered if the second one applies to you. And then you also can get fees for your biannual statement of information is going to be required to be filed every other year with the California Secretary of State. Now, I would have to double check and see if they issue you a fine for that, but they will suspend your good standing and they will suspend your LLC. So you need to make sure that you do that as well. Additionally, you want to make sure that you cover your bases for any future problems by creating an operating agreement to make sure that you have the basics covered in your business so that those legal protections that create that veil separating the business and the personal entity hold up in court. If you don't create an operating agreement, and if you fail to comply with all of these things that you have to maintain, then your LLC protections are essentially dissolved. You basically have no reason for having an LLC if the protections is what you're after. So make sure you create an operating agreement. You can find templates for it online, or you can have one professionally done for you. January and February are crazy seasons. Yes, I imagine so. You're a payroll manager. Yeah, I imagine that's a really busy time for you. Hopefully you're past the chaos now and things are back to normal. Hi, Shay. Hi, Callie girl. What happened to DUA? Disaster Unemployment Assistance. So disaster unemployment assistance is currently available for California wildfire victims and those who are in affected areas, who work in affected areas, or who have to travel through affected areas, who had their jobs canceled. So DUA is still active. I'm not creating a ton of content on it because there's not a lot of demand. I haven't received a lot of questions on that one first video. So I'm not putting out a lot of information on it, but I do have one application video that walks you through how to apply and who qualifies. So if you're in the Los Angeles County area and you had your work impacted, for example, if I was going to work a job down there, but the venue closed and that contract was canceled, and all of my contracts were canceled, then I could apply for disaster unemployment assistance. This is unemployment assistance payments for you because you cannot work, your regular work was canceled, that is available to self-employed people during times of disaster. So this is a federal program and it is still in action. It's available through, I think July is the last payout date for that, because there's going to be a lot of people that cannot work their regular jobs in those areas. So if you are someone in Los Angeles County and you need to seek that out, maybe you didn't even know it was available, I have a video that shows you exactly who qualifies and walks you through the application. Okay, any way to get your email for questions? So I do not answer questions through email unless it's a time where I'm taking on one-on-one clients and you've hired me, but I'm not open to that currently. Right now, you can ask me questions in the chat here and I will be happy to let you know my best answer if I can. You can also always leave comments on my videos, even if it's not related to the video topic. Feel free to ask whatever you'd like in the video comments. I'm pretty good at replying there. Okay, there is no fine for the SOI, but it will be reported to the FTB. Okay, and your business could get suspended. Thank you for clarifying that, so I didn't have to look it up. Okay, so for your Secretary of State, your oh my goodness, not the articles of organization, your statement of information. Statement of information, if you're an LLC, you have to file an updated statement of information biannually in the state of California every other year. And thank you for confirming there is not a fine, but yes, your business could be suspended, which is what I had shared as well. Callie girl, thanks for the update. I had only received one letter. Okay, was this for, which letter was it? Was it for DUA? Did you apply? And then did you start receiving payments yet? I hope you were able to get through from the EDD. Okay. Hopefully you were able to start getting payments. If you applied and you received one letter, it might have been like an acceptance letter, but not payments starting yet. They now offer direct deposit. When I was reviewing all of the recent wildfire DUA information, I saw that they now offer direct deposit instead of waiting for that card to come in the mail. So make sure you're signed up for that because that's going to make sure that you receive payments as quickly as possible. Okay, I have clients not file their statements of information for over a year with no negative impact, but you should still file them on time. Yes, please file them on time. You know, it looks really bad, aside from it being illegal, it looks really bad if a client is researching your business This happened in my community recently on a Facebook page. I was like silently watching it with my popcorn, watching people investigate this business. If someone is trying to share your business, they look you up. They find your Secretary of State information. They see that you are listed as not good, like it states not good standing there when you haven't filed something. Or it will say suspended. It says some words that are quite alarming if you're a consumer and you don't understand. Perhaps that business switched to being a sole proprietor and just didn't actually fully dissolve their LLC. Maybe it's not that bad, but it looks bad to the customer if they're searching, they want to buy from you, and then that's what they find. So please file your information in a timely and organized manner. Okay, for DUA, no payments. You should try to call them. Yes, so, well, it depends on when you applied. Now, I'm not, during the pandemic, I knew all the unemployment information. Now I only have the information that I researched recently from that one DUA video. So excuse me for not being up on all the info, but when did you apply? How long ago was it? Because it will take them, I'd have to check on processing time, but I believe it was a couple of weeks for them to process your application. And then they would not issue payments until there was 4 weeks ago. Okay, 4 weeks ago, you should call. If it was 4 weeks ago, if you have not received additional information, then you should call to make sure that everything has gone through properly. If you have trouble getting through and you want to use a service, Claimer will get you through really quickly. I have videos about them on my channel, but hopefully their line is not as busy as it was back in 2021. Okay. All right, you guys, I think I'm going to have this be kind of a short live tonight. If you have additional questions, please put them in the chat now so I can get to them. I didn't file last year and finally want to put everything together in order to start fresh. I heard about those forgiveness programs, but I'm not sure where to start. Do you have any recommendations? For CPA, I don't have a personal recommendation to give off the top of my head. Ask people in your local neighbor groups who they're using and who they like. Find someone that's local, that's close to you, that you can work really easily with. That way you can meet with them in person and build trust. So if you didn't file last year, so there forgiveness programs, you can apply for a payment plan. Let me switch so you can see my screen. Oh, it's crazy. Okay, is this it? No, that's not it. There it is. Okay, so you can apply for a payment plan through the IRS. So if you are behind on your taxes, if you didn't file them nor pay them last year, you have a lot of self-employed income tax to catch up on now, you can apply for a payment plan. There are going to be benefits of avoiding accruing additional interest and penalties if you're on a payment plan versus just letting it sit and continue to accrue interest and penalties. If they set you up with a payment plan, then they will not continue to accrue those interests and penalties because you have an active plan with them. They know exactly when they're going to get paid, and it will not continue to snowball. And then, yeah, that's really the main benefit of doing that versus waiting. You want to make sure that you cut off those interests and penalties as quickly as possible. Payment plans have two different choices. You can do a short-term payment plan or a long-term payment plan. Short-term, the amount is going to be due in 180 days or less. And you can apply right here. You can set up direct deposit for it. There's a $0 setup fee. You can apply by phone, mail, or in person. And plus accrued penalties and interest until the balance is paid in full. Okay, so that's the first option. The second option is a long-term payment plan. This is through direct debit. There is a fee to set it up. There's a $22 setup fee. And then if you apply If you apply online, there's a cheaper setup fee than if you apply in person. And then there's a long-term payment plan here, which has a $69 setup fee, or if you need to do it in person, $178 setup fee. So basically just try to get yourself obviously paid up as soon as possible, but you can only do so much at a time. So I have taken out a payment plan. How long ago was it? It was like 13 years ago, I think. It was like one of my first years that I made like actual money in one of my businesses. And I was not prepared for the amount of tax that I would have to pay. And it really took me by surprise. And I got an installment agreement, paid it off. It reduced the penalties. So look into that. How do I change an address for an LLC in California? So you're going to go to the Secretary of State's website. Let me pull it up for you. Hold on. If I can. Okay, so you are going to be, sorry, I'm still looking for the right page. So you can technically wait until the biannual statement of information is due every other year, and then you can just change it there. Or you can contact them right away and file that change with them. None of this is where I want to go. I'm going to just go here. Secretary of State. Hopefully I wasn't sharing my screen that whole, I wasn't. It's just me unsuccessfully trying to find. I cannot multitask, I'm sorry. Okay. Information and resources. eForms, there it is. Now I can share my screen now that I'm not quite a mess. I'm always a mess. Organized mess. Come on. Okay. All right, so Secretary of State's website right here. File a statement of information is going to be right here. You're going to look up your business here, and then you're going to find your business there, and then there's going to be a button to click to file that statement of information. You can change your business address when you file that statement of information. If you want to do it sooner, then I would contact the Secretary of State directly to make sure that it is changed right away. Okay, go down. All right, you guys, I'm gonna be here for 10 more minutes. Ooh, where'd it go? I have a quick question. I have an LLC since 2019, but I have not been making enough to justify paying the franchise tax fee of $800. Would it be best to cancel and dismantle the LLC or try to do DBA? Okay, so the $800 annual fee is a lot if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't balance out. So if you want to dissolve the LLC, you can, and then you would not be subject to paying that $800 fee. What is the reason why you had an LLC before? And is that a good enough reason worth $800 to you? What industry are you in? What sort of services or things are you providing in your business? Is it a high risk industry where it does make sense to have an LLC because you're in a high lawsuit industry and you have a lot of personal assets, or do you really not need it? Think about that and weigh the benefits there. If you dissolve the LLC, you want to do it before this next tax season, before April 15th, because April 15th, you're going to be paying $800 for this next year. So if you are going to dissolve that LLC, do it before April 15th so that you don't have to pay that $800 going forward into the next year. Once you dissolve that, you're going to switch back into a sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship, you need to have, you hopefully should already have a business license. because you need that even if you're an LLC. You will need to register your DBA with your county clerk recorder's office. And then if you had an EIN with your LLC and you want to keep an EIN, you'll need to get a different EIN because that EIN is tied to your LLC name. So you'll need to transfer that as well. Additionally, if you have a seller's permit, you will need to change the name on the account, the business name on the account, which is easy to do. You just have to contact the CBTFA and change that. Okay, Georgetown Felix. I started an LLC during the pandemic as I was doing 1099 compliance work for banks, and I recently was certified to file tax returns. Can I use the same LLC? Okay, let me see this again. Started an LLC, you were doing 1099 compliance for banks. Okay, so you want to do tax filing under your current, yeah. So it's the same industry. So an LLC can have multiple different branches, and all of those different branches can have different registered DBAs, doing business as, or fictitious business name statements, sometimes they're referred to, can be under that one umbrella of that LLC. So you want to make sure that they should be generally related within the same sort of industry. If you're doing something completely different, then you'll want to start a new LLC, but you're not. This is all finance and tax related things. So if you want to create, you can either just use the same LLC and the business name that you already have, or you can register a separate DBA to operate under that LLC as. So you're going to go to your county clerk recorder's office, you're going to file a DBA, and you're going to tie that DBA to your LLC using your Secretary of State entity number. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that with you when you go to the county clerk recorder's office, or you can do it online. Shay, do I also need to change the address with the IRS? So if you're changing an address for your LLC, you need to change it everywhere across the board that your LLC is registered. This is going to include your FEIN and your SEIN. If you have either of those, well, an LLC will have an EIN federal. So yes, you're going to change that. You are also going to change the address with, if you have a seller's permit, you're going to change it with your business license. You're going to change it with, if you have any separate DBAs tied to that LLC, you need to change that there. And if you are your own registered agent with your LLC, you need to change that there as well. This water bottle's so loud. Do you hear it every time? You can file a statement of information anytime to update. It's usually about $5 unless your statement of information is due. I love that you are here to tell me that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Georgetown Felix, thanks. First time jumping in on your lives. Thank you for being here. Feel free to ask more questions. Also remember to update your business license with the city you operate in. Correct. Yes. Of course, you know that's correct. I'm not telling you. Thank you. Form 8822. Let me put that on screen again with the IRS. Thank you. So that's the exact form number, courtesy of RMDE5. Thank you. Okay, moving on. You do silk screen shirts. Okay, great. So if you are, and your question was, do you need an LLC? You can dissolve that LLC if you don't want to pay that annual $800 tax. You can convert to a sole proprietorship. You can register that DBA. You can change your seller's permit. You should have a seller's permit. So make sure that you change and update it so it doesn't have your LLC information on it, has you as a sole proprietor and whatever your DBA is going to be there. And then change everything else. So your business license, etc. Additionally, bank accounts as well. If you registered a bank account as an LLC, then you should correct that there as well. Send updated W-9 saying anyone we work with, so you have their new address. Excellent. Okay, you're very welcome. Okay, found you a customer. Okay, so our RMDE5 If you want to connect with Shay wants your email address. Feel free to drop it in the chat. Okay, do it quick because I'm going to turn off my camera soon. Okay, you guys, if there's any last questions, throw them in real quick right now. Otherwise, I am going to head out for the night. Hopefully you guys are having lots of fun filing your income taxes this year. I am. All right, you guys. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.